LA Rams, who are trying to become the first team to successfully defend their title since the '04 Patriots. And the Rams still do have the majority of their pieces back from last season, but they only have the 5th best overall odds to win it. And there are 2 teams in the NFC with better odds to win the Super Bowl. The Bucs, who have the 2nd best odds overall behind only the Bills, who are 7-1. Bucs 8-1. Packers 11-1. And then we have the Rams at 12-1 to repeat. Let's bring in NFL writer Tyler Sullivan with reasons why each NFC contender won't win the Super Bowl this season. Let's start with the defending champion Rams. Why won't they be able to go back-to-back, Tyler?
Well, just like you said in the tease, Chris, it's hard to do. It's hard to go back-to-back Super Bowl champions because you now have a target on your back. Every game on the schedule that you have, every other team is circling, trying to measure themselves up to the Super Bowl champions, making it a gauntlet of not just a period of the season, it's an entire 18-week slog of trying to go through all of these teams. Even the worst teams in the NFL will give you your best punch on a week-in and week-out basis, and that starts to grow on a franchise and how that impacts them going forward. So really, it's just a mentality. Are they able to withstand something along those lines of just getting the best, absolute best out of every one of their opponents? It's tough to do, and it really impacts you later on in the season, especially once you get into the postseason. Another one, again, and it's more on the roster, is the uncertainty at left tackle with Joe Noteboom ascending to that blindside spot, of course, with the retirement of Andrew Whitworth. In spot starts, been totally fine, fair, able to kind of hold his own in coverage and in pass protections, but ultimately we haven't seen it over the course of a full regular season and how that impacts a guy like Matthew Stafford, who has had some injury problems in the past. If all of a sudden that blindside tackle spot becomes an issue for them, look out, because that is something that Matthew Stafford and that offense can't withstand. And speaking of that offense and the skill position players, it's really questions about regression and not necessarily that people will fall and be bad players, but is a guy like Cooper Kupp really going to be able to be a triple crown receiver yet again, leading the league in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns? Or is he going to kind of come back to earth a little bit and not be this world beater, but still one of the best receivers in the NFL? That's something that should be expected in 2022. And then outside of the other skill positions, for me, wide receiver is another one to look at. It's on the opposite side of Cooper Kupp with Allen Robinson. You got to remember, Odell Beckham Jr. has not been re-signed yet. We don't know what the situation is going to be with him. The chemistry between Stafford and Beckham was superb. We don't know if that's going to be the case with Allen Robinson.
No, they won the Super Bowl. They went on that run without Robert Woods the second half of that season, but also likely losing OBJ. Even if they re-sign him, might miss some time because of that injury. So, I mean, how big of a step up is Allen Robinson going to have to take here to help this team with the production on the offensive end?
I mean, you just look at what happened in the Super Bowl there. Odell Beckham Jr. was on pace to potentially be the Super Bowl MVP. He was absolutely balling out, and the chemistry throughout Odell Beckham's time in LA with Matthew Stafford was unreal, how quickly they were able to kind of get on the same page there. So for Robinson, between now and the start of the regular season, it's going to be all about getting on that same page or a similar page with Matthew Stafford. You're going to have to be one of the better wide receivers in the NFL because, like you said, you're not just taking on the Odell Beckham production, but you also are taking on Robert Woods, who is now in Tennessee.
All right, so Tom Brady is still the last quarterback to go back-to-back. Patriots the last team to go back-to-back, 03-04. Tom Brady now working on his 8th ring. Why won't he get it this season with the Bucs?
It does seem silly, right, to doubt Tom Brady at this point. I mean, the guy has just been doing everything imaginable to prove people wrong. But I think he just went through an offseason that he's never experienced before. I mean, the guy retired. He was out of the NFL for 40 days. Again, not the longest time in the world, but he did, in fact, say goodbye to the NFL, and now he's coming back. And when we've seen this in the past with players mulling retirement, even retiring and coming back, it doesn't feel like they have that same level of commitment. And it sounds funny that I'm talking about this with Tom Brady, but he is human, even though he's proven time and time again that he might be a cyborg. But ultimately, he already has that foot out the door. He has a future in broadcasting already lined up. He has other endeavors. I do wonder if there is going to be some sort of a call outside of playing on Sundays for Tom Brady that kind of takes his eye off the ball just a little bit. And even if it does, the Buccaneers' ceiling will decrease because of it. And then obviously outside of Tom Brady, they're going to look a little bit different at the coaching standpoint. Again, Todd Bowles ascending from defensive coordinator to head coach. How is that going to look? I think we all think that Todd Bowles is an outstanding head coach, but it is going to be different. And as much as there have been rumors about Bruce Arians and Tom Brady may have clashing over the last few years here, the proof was in the pudding. It worked. They were able to win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady was able to put up ridiculous numbers, and they were able to put the eventual Super Bowl champion Rams on the brink of elimination at that rally later on in the playoffs in the divisional round there. Who knows what it's going to look like with Todd Bowles? We knew it would look good with Arians, but we don't exactly know what it's going to look like with Todd Bowles as the head coach. And then finally, it's Chris Godwin. You know, what is that going to look like after he's coming off the torn ACL? He was the go-to target for Tom Brady outside of the red zone, and he was the guy that was moving the sticks. If he is not able to return at the start of the year and maybe not be that same explosive player throughout the year as he continues to recover from that injury, typically takes a year long to kind of fully feel like yourself after a torn ACL, that's again going to limit the ceiling for how impactful this Buccaneers offense could be. They have Mike Evans, they have Chris Godwin coming back from the injury. Beyond that, there's not a lot at receiver that I love there for Tom Brady.
Be interesting to see how that division, which is not expected to be competitive, how that is going to affect the Buccaneers, because when they won it, they really had to grind that last half of the season, get on a winning streak going into the postseason. If they win that division by several games, could change things up. Let's go to another division that might not be that competitive, but the Vikings have something to say about that. The Packers. Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP, but still has not been able to get this team to the Super Bowl. They have only won it once behind Rodgers. Why will they be unable to do it again?
Well, you know, Aaron Rodgers has been fantastic, back-to-back MVP, one of the better quarterbacks of his era. But who is he going to be throwing to this year? That's the big question. He can be as great as he wants, but if there's nobody there that can get open, that's, again, going to hurt the Packers' offense. You lose a guy like Davante Adams, I don't think that's something that we can just say, oh, well, they have Aaron Rodgers, they'll figure it out. And Davante Adams had over 600 targets over the last 4 years. They got to go to somebody. They have Christian Watson, who they drafted at the NFL draft a few weeks ago. That's a guy that could be in line for a bulk of those targets, but you're putting a lot of faith in a rookie to really ascend to be that level of a target for Aaron Rodgers. And speaking of Rodgers, we don't really know what it's going to look like in the playoffs for him. You know, if you take away that Super Bowl run now it's more than a few years ago, over a decade ago, he hasn't been an elite quarterback in the playoffs. He's under 500, 7-10 when you take away that Super Bowl run. Again, credit to him for winning that one, but since then hasn't really been able to get over the hump. So then when you're looking at an offense now that loses a big weapon like Davante Adams, it's going to make the road that much more difficult for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And then finally, special teams. They hired a new special teams coordinator this offseason, but that has been their Achilles heel, really dating back to 2016. Since then till now, they have been either at the bottom of the league or the bottom half of the league in special teams efficiency. You saw it in that loss in the postseason this past year. It's been a killer for them. If they don't improve that with this coaching change, well, then again, they're not going much farther than where they've already been.
Many people could argue Packers have underachieved with Aaron Rodgers and with Brett Favre. You have those two guys, just 2 Super Bowls to show for it, though both of those Super Bowls have come since the Cowboys won their last one, which came a year before Brett Favre got his one and only. Why will that Super Bowl drought continue for the Cowboys this year?
And there's a Green Bay link to this as well. The first and foremost, Mike McCarthy. We don't know what that's going to look like with him. Again, it hasn't been successful in the postseason since that Super Bowl win. Very similar to Rodgers. You go from that point till now, he's 5-7 in the playoffs as a head coach, and he's just had some questionable decisions. And so when you look at the coaching standpoint for the Cowboys, I do think that there's a storyline brewing there. If they struggle to begin the year when they start against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they play against the Cincinnati Bengals in the first 2 weeks. If all of a sudden they start to lose a few games, things get rumbling, we're going to talk about hot seat with Mike McCarthy, especially now that a guy like Sean Payton is out there in broadcast circles, potentially taking a year off and then going back in So for me, Mike McCarthy, it is a massive year for him, not only just in the regular season and in the postseason, but for his job security as well. Because if they have another down year or a one and done in the playoffs like they were in 2021, that'll certainly be a conversation. And then looking to the roster, Ezekiel Elliott is someone who I think is also in the midst of a very pivotal year. If he continues to regress like we saw last year, but the Cowboys still use him as that elite number one bell cow back, that's going to bring this offense's potential down tremendously. When you go from week 6 on last season, he was averaging 3.6 yards per carry, and even the naked eye would show you that he wasn't the best running back in that backfield. It was Tony Pollard, who in that same time frame was averaging 5 yards per carry. If they don't make some sort of a timeshare or a shift off of Ezekiel Elliott and he continues on that downward trajectory, again, that offense is going to struggle. And then when you look outside of the backfield, the receivers, something that I think we have to point out here as well with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, he lost a couple of number one or top two go-to receiving options this offseason, obviously trading away Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns, but then also losing Cedric Wilson to the Miami Dolphins in free agency. I don't think that is a talked about enough loss to begin with. He was a very, reliable option for him. They were able to re-sign Michael Gallup, but he is coming off of a torn ACL. We don't know what the timetable is going to be for him to start the year, and that leaves CeeDee Lamb. And when you have one wide receiver, that really limits your offense because the defense can pretty much scheme up anything to eliminate one player. And if it's just CeeDee Lamb, again, that's going to be tough sledding there for Dak Prescott.
Tyler Sullivan on why the Cowboys will not win Super Bowl 57. They have not won since Super Bowl 30. 27 years ago. Tyler, thank you so much.
A playoff game in more than 20 years, the Bengals not only won one, but they found themselves in the Super Bowl. Behind Joe Cool, the Bengals have their sights set on glory yet again. Only do they have what it takes. Joe Burrow sacked 70 times between the regular season and the postseason, so they've worked on that offensive line. Also keep in mind, though, the Bengals have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, and they don't have great odds when it comes to winning the Super Bowl. They're okay, but considering they were in it, they are the 10th favorite team to win. But you're taking a look at AFC teams there. The Bengals sitting at 22-1 odds. The Bills have the best odds at 7-1. They also have the best odds out of the entire NFL. Let's welcome in the host of the Pick Six podcast, Will Brinson here. But here's the thing, Will. Are you in a good mood today or a bad mood? Like, how are we feeling?
I'm in a good mood. Why? Well, first of all, what was that? What was I the other day? I was like super amped to be here talking some Bengals. Let's go. I'm in a good mood, I guess.
Because I think this would be a great thing to do if you're in a bad mood. We're here to crush hopes and dreams. That is what I want to do today. We're going to talk about why each of these teams will not win this Super Bowl. So let's start with the Bengals because we actually heard from Joe Burrow this week. He said, look, I know we were good going to last year, but we weren't really sure if we had what it took. He says, we now know what it takes, but I want you to tell Joe Burrow why he won't win the Super Bowl.
See, you're wrong there, though, Amanda. If I'm in a good mood, I want to crush hopes and dreams because that's only going to put me in a better mood. And I think with the Bengals, you can come up with some pretty easy reasons. I mean, maybe they were the easiest team to think about. One, like, let's start with the idea that they could just have a Super Bowl hangover and that we could see some regression from them in 2022, right? And it could even be regression, not just from the Bengals, but from elsewhere in the division. The Baltimore Ravens lost over 190 games, according to Football Outsiders, to injury last year. That is by far the most, 40 more than the next team, and then 70 more than the third place team. So Baltimore could be a major problem to prevent them from getting there if they end up having a better season as a result of a positive regression. And I do think the Bengals could be due for a little negative regression. Additionally, what if the offensive line improvements don't work? The Chiefs went out and got a bunch of new offensive linemen last year, and it took them well over half a season to really get everything right with how they needed to have it in terms of their offensive line. And if you look at the most sacks taken in a Super Bowl all time, as you can see on the screen, Joe Burrow tied with Roger Staubach, just ahead of Cam Newton and Joe Theismann, got sacked 70 times in the season as a whole, or 70 for the regular season and 89 or whatever it was for the full season. Maybe the offensive line doesn't get better, and maybe Joe Burrow is sacked into oblivion again. That would obviously be a pretty big problem. And then finally, I think that you can look at the Bengals and you can say that the defense still might not stop anyone. They weren't 24th by DVOA against the pass. And it's entirely possible that if the offense takes a little step back and the defense still can't stop anyone against the pass, that Cincinnati isn't as good as they were last year. And, if they might not get lucky in the playoffs either.
I realize this is why Pete Prisco is always so internally happy, because he gets to make everyone miserable. And now we're on that train. Let's go to the Chiefs. We've now killed off the Bengals here. Of course, they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship. No more TYREEK Hill. You're still worried about their defense. Why will the Chiefs not win the Super Bowl?
Well, I think those are, my first two reasons. No TYREEK Hill. That's a bit no TYREEK Hill is a big problem. I like the Chiefs to win the division at their value, like plus 150 or something like that. I like the Chiefs over 10.5 wins on Caesars. It's like minus 120 because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are still there and they're still very, very good. But I do think the lack of TYREEK Hill is going to create not just, a little bit of a lack of explosion in the offense, but also some time that Patrick Mahomes is going to have to learn to adjust. Now you see these stats, you guys are throwing in my face here. 3-1 without TYREEK Hill, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 363 passing yards per game in those games. Not too bad of a performance by Patrick Mahomes, but he's got to get on the same page as Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And we'll need to see Travis Kelce really, maybe take us, I don't know, it's kind of a down year for Kelce. I think this year is kind of all right, he's not getting too old, is he, type of season. Also, I think when you look at the Chiefs, that defense might just be bad again. That wouldn't be weird, at all if, the defense wasn't good. It has typically been okay at best, even during, some of the Chiefs' best runs, like deep in the playoffs. And then finally, how about the Bills? Right? The Bills could just be a reason the Chiefs don't make it because the Bills are really, really good and they might be a problem for the Chiefs. I think there are plenty of reasons why the Chiefs won't make it, but maybe less so than the Bengals.
All right, let's go to the Bills here. They're the AFC team with the best odds to win the Super Bowl. The best odds out of any team in the NFL. They are the betting favorite right now. So close the past couple of years. They addressed some of their needs in the draft, taking Kyer Elam, also James Cook. So why will it not be enough yet again this year to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, RJ White, one of our fantastic editors here at CBSSports.com, had a great point that, when you look at the Bills, you can make the case that the change in offensive coordinators is a bigger deal than, really anyone's kind of made it this offseason. Brian Daboll has been fantastic for the Buffalo Bills over the past few years, and now he is going to of course, he's gone to the Giants, and they're replacing him with Ken Dorsey. Now, I think Ken Dorsey will probably be a pretty good play caller. He learned under Daboll, has had success at this level, hadn't been a play caller before. But, it's still Josh Allen and Dorsey have to get on the same page. And I thought RJ made a great point, too. Will Sean McDermott sort of step in and maybe ask to run the ball more? And will that be a problem for the play calling? Will they lean more on the run and less on that explosive passing offense? Will Dorsey know how to utilize Josh Allen's legs? Will the red zone play calling take a hit? I think those are all viable questions. And then, we talk about the running game as well. They added James Cook in the draft, and I think James Cook could be awesome. Clearly, we're talking about Dalvin Cook's brother, right? It's sort of like the T.J. Watt corollary. He dropped in the draft, people are like, well, he's not J.J. Watt. Yeah, but he's still his brother, and he's still pretty good. Might be the same thing with James Cook. So I think this could be a good running game, but James Cook, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, you don't really have that true alpha runner, and maybe those guys are more of receiving backs, and maybe that running game struggles a little bit. I think that could be a reason why Buffalo potentially couldn't close out some games. And then I think if you look at the Bills as well, you could point out, just like I did with the Chiefs, vice versa. The Chiefs are a problem. They had 13 seconds. Just don't let them get within field goal range. And you're going, you're playing the Bengals for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And instead, of course, the Chiefs pull that off. The Chiefs are definitely the Pistons to the Bills. If Josh Allen is MJ and wants to become, a legendary player who wins titles, he's got to get past the bad boy Pistons. And that's who the Chiefs are right now. So certainly they're an impediment for the Bills to winning the Super Bowl.
All right, let's talk about a team that will have to face the Chiefs a couple times there, the Broncos, because the AFC West is daunting. Look, as soon as the Broncos got Russell Wilson, their odds skyrocketed. I believe they're 16-1 right now to win the Super Bowl. Their fans would get a euphoric high, I guess, if they were to win the Super Bowl. They might be looking for a different high if they lose the Super Bowl or don't even make it. Why will the Broncos not win the Super Bowl?
I guess that's okay to say because they play in Colorado.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Sure, that works. Look,
legal there.
That Russell, right? Just keep moving, Brinson. Look, I think that you can make the case that Russell Wilson. I know this is a bad reason why they won't win the Super Bowl. He's a new quarterback in town. Like, it's not easy to switch teams, even though the last 2 Super Bowls have been won by players who did just that, and Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. I'm just trying to find reasons here, folks. Russell Wilson switches teams. It's a new, it's a new chemistry with new receivers, and I think that can at least be a concerning factor. And then I think you also can put on top that, you have a new coach in Nathaniel Hackett. That's sort of one of the bigger differences between the 2022 Broncos and the 2021 Los Angeles Rams and the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Remember, Tom Brady got dropped into a team, and Matthew Stafford, same deal. Both dropped into teams with, in-place infrastructure in terms of the coaching staff and the front office and all of that. And things are really in a little bit more, turmoil, not turmoil, but you got some turnover when it comes to Nathaniel Hackett coming in. We don't know how he's going to do as a head coach. It's his first time. It is a different job than being an offensive coordinator, particularly if you're thinking about calling the plays. So I think that combination of new quarterback and new coach could be a particular problem for the Broncos. And then if you want one more reason, how about that division? I mean, that division is stacked. Talk about the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Raiders and the Broncos. I mean, if you don't win the division, think about what kind of path you have to get through the playoffs. Like if these teams, it's going to be really tough for any of these teams to become the #1 overall seed and to get that bye to get into, which gives you a massive advantage in today's modern NFL. So I think the AFC West absolutely could be a beat each other up situation that results in those teams struggling a little bit, when you get to the postseason.
Broncos and Chargers, same odds in the division at +250, same odds to win the Super Bowl in 16-1. So let's talk about the third team out of the AFC West, the Chargers here. Look, they've not made the postseason since 2018. They refused to end in a tie last season. They have not won a Super Bowl since 1994. Will, my favorite reason they're at the bottom, they're the Chargers. Explain.
Yeah, again, like the top one, right? Tough AFC West. Again, the Chargers could finish third in the AFC West, and that wouldn't be crazy at all. Vegas tells us as much, and they might miss the playoffs. All 4 teams could potentially get in. Seems pretty unlikely. 2 is more likely, especially with the AFC North looking tough. You've got 2 contenders in the AFC South with much easier divisional games, et cetera, et cetera. And the Patriots, nothing to sneeze at. Same with the Dolphins. Like, it's not going to be a freebie to get in just because you're in the the tough AFC West. Like, it's going to make it much harder. Additionally, I think that I thought they might consider going with Jordan Davis in the draft in order to maybe shore up the run defense. They didn't. They wanted to help out Justin Herbert. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I do question when you start to look at their roster. Will they be able to stop the run? Because they were 30th in rush yards allowed. As you can see, 138.9 rush yards per game allowed last year. Very low in the NFL. That is no good. They were the worst team in allowing third down conversions, and they gave up the 29th most points in the league. Now, Derwin James, Joey Bosa back, all those people healthy. Maybe that works out, but they got to stay healthy first. And Khalil Mack, a nice addition, also older player, needs to stay healthy. So the Chargers have a history of injuries happening, and I don't think it's a coincidental thing. So I do worry a little bit about that. And then, of course, as I was saying, they're the Chargers. Look at that. Under all 3 of the last years, they go under their win total. This is a team that is cursed with stupidity. Believe me, I've been following them and rooting for them for like 10 to 20 years, however long since Phillip Rivers alive. They love nothing more than to do stupid things at the worst possible time to screw up their chances to win something special or to have an eventful season. And they will, I promise you, find a way to charger it up because they are the Chargers.
Will, we appreciate it. It is not every day that we have the host of the Pick Six podcast. Will, I'm supposed to promo your podcast. Tell us about the latest episode. What can we look forward to?
We did quarterback tiers. Jason Lockefort's quarterback tiers. We picked him apart. JLC's a good friend, so we don't mind doing it. Picked him apart and looked at, maybe shifting guys around. So myself, Ryan Wilson, and John Breach did that. You should go check it out and download it wherever you get your podcast.
Will, thank you. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.